My boyfriend's white moonlight walked into the company and immediately sought to fire me. My boyfriend, David, acquiesced to the whole thing, telling me that a girl of my background was too calculating and scared him, and that I should be content with the wealth I'd accumulated under him. He completely forgot that I was the company's foremost contributor. Crazy couple, are we? Fine. I resigned and, incidentally, took 90 of the clients with me. I had been away on a business trip for half a month, successfully closing a major deal worth tens of millions, and rushed back, hoping to surprise David Hayes before the annual meeting. But the moment I walked in, dusty from travel, I heard David announcing that the company had been acquired by a large investor. The crowd erupted. My subordinates turned to me with questioning looks. I was more stunned than any of them. As the company's vice president, I had not heard a single rumor about the acquisition. Furthermore, outside of my VP role, I was David's girlfriend. Although I'd been away in Sea City for the past 2 weeks, David and I video chatted almost every day. Yet, he never once mentioned selling the company. So, he was deliberately keeping it from me. I gazed at the man on the stage. Handsome, tall, and spirited. He looked like the man I knew and loved. Even the custom-tailored suit he wore was one I had bought for him. He saw me, and the smile froze on his face. Clearly, my return was unexpected. My heart instinctively sank. David quickly adjusted his expression and proceeded to announce the second bombshell of the evening. The investor has appointed a highly capable executive to assist me in managing the company. A striking figure in fiery red ascended the stage. It was none other than David's and my former arch-rival, Jasmine Sue. 6 years ago, when the company was just starting, Jasmine, leveraging her background, effortlessly snatched a long-standing client from us. She had the audacity to taunt people of ordinary backgrounds like us, claiming we were born merely to pave the way for people like her. But hey, old classmate, you look great trying so hard. Keep up the effort, she sneered, got into a Mercedes-Benz nearby, and drove away. That night, David got drunk. Only then did I learn that Jasmine was his college classmate and his secret crush. At the time, he was a poor boy from the countryside, while she was a true daughter of privilege. They were worlds apart. His affection was only dared to be scribbled secretly in a notebook. Later, that notebook, filled with his love, was torn up and thrown in his face by Jasmine. That polite daytime classmate looked down at him in the darkness, mocking him like a peasant. A peasant like you dares to like me. If you don't have a mirror, surely you have urine. As he recounted the story, David laughed self-deprecatingly. She was right. I wasn't worthy. Maybe a loser like me should just accept his fate. Half drunk, David slumped onto my shoulder, and a chilling dampness seeped into my clothes. I felt my heart growing heavy too. I grabbed his head, looked him in the eye, and said seriously, David, you will succeed, because you are the man chosen by me. Audrey Tang, I won't allow you to fail. Back then, he held my hand and vowed that we would take the company all the way to ring the bell at NASDAQ, ensuring no one would ever look down on us again. But now, under the gaze of everyone, he held Jasmine's hand. MS. Jasmine Sue is a senior management talent from overseas and the new vice president in charge of human resources. I believe that under her leadership, the company will reach new heights. The clamor below grew louder. Several people gathered around me, asking what was happening. Who is that woman? The CEO seems very close to her. Jasmine Sue. I heard her background is immensely powerful. Did Mr. Hayes climb the social ladder? Sister Audrey, will the company be laying off people? What are you talking about? We're all Sister Audrey's people. With her here, what is there to fear? But, Sister Audrey, you've been with Mr. Hayes for so many years. And he didn't tell you about selling the company. I didn't answer them, only looking toward the stage, separated by the bright lights. Jasmine and David stood side by side, a picture-perfect couple. So, what did that make me? Jasmine quickly answered that question. She publicly announced that her first order of business, representing the investor, was an organizational structure adjustment. Previously, the company was a startup, and Mr. Hayes is a sentimental man. So the selection of personnel inevitably suffered from seniority bias. Certain individuals lacked ability but occupied high positions, resting on past achievements and showing no initiative. This will absolutely not be tolerated under my watch. Jasmine might as well have named me directly. Instantly, almost everyone looked my way. 6 years ago, when I joined the company, there were only 6 people, including David. Now the company had grown to 200 employees. I had also risen from an office assistant to vice president. But no one knew better than David how I earned that VP title. David was too much of a scholar, bad at dealing with clients. He always believed good products would speak for themselves. But when the company first started, we were obscure. Our products didn't even qualify for a serious look from clients. I was the one who took our products and visited every single company. When I couldn't schedule a meeting, I waited outside the company building, in the parking lot, and anywhere else the client might appear. When clients didn't have time to review the proposal, I racked my brain, refining it constantly to capture their attention in under 3 minutes. Working until midnight was normal. I even drank so much at one event that I ended up in the hospital with a bleeding stomach. I could honestly say I was responsible for more than half of the company's success. I controlled 80 of the company's vital clientele. But now, a single, dismissive sentence from Jasmine negated everything I had done. I looked at David on the stage, feeling a sharp clench in my heart. First, concealing the company sale from me, then letting Jasmine spout such nonsense at the annual meeting. This was clearly a premeditated attack targeting me. But why? I couldn't understand. For the past 6 years, we had fought side by side, sharing a mutual understanding. Even if we weren't lovers, we were comrades and partners. But now, I was being stabbed in the back by the person I trusted most. Jasmine continued. Next, the company will undergo optimization, eliminating the underperformers and allowing those who are capable to rise. Please support the company's decision. There is no need to worry. The company will not let go of genuinely talented individuals. We will introduce more advanced management concepts, a complete performance review system. Surrender was never my style. During Jasmine's rambling, I spoke up first. Excuse me, Ms. Sue, is announcing layoffs at the annual meeting part of your advanced management philosophy? And who are these people you call dead weight? Why don't you name them so everyone can admire them? I've been at Spring Breeze for 6 years, and I've never heard of anyone so lucky. A few snickers broke the silence. Jasmine's face flushed red. David's eyes finally focused on me for the first time that night. He eventually placated Jasmine with a few words, then stepped off the stage and walked toward me. Audrey, the decision to sell the company and lay off staff was mine. It has nothing to do with Jasmine. If you have any complaints, direct them at me. Don't make things difficult for her. Whatever your concerns, we can discuss them privately. I can answer any questions you have. I followed David into the CEO's office on the top floor. We once spent sleepless nights in this room, holding meetings and intimately planning our future. Now, we stood side by the window, only silence between us. As the night descended, the entire business park looked dark from this height. After a long pause, David spoke. Audrey, do you remember when we first moved in here? We were young and ambitious, thinking we could actually ring the bell at NASDAQ. He gave a low, self-mocking laugh. But now, the business environment is getting worse. How many companies in this park alone have collapsed this year? Just keeping the company afloat has been a struggle. I'm tired of supporting so many people. Now that an investor is willing to take over, why shouldn't I welcome it? I almost sneered. David, if you wanted to cash out, why the flowery excuses? The company is profitable every year. And not to mention the large contract I'm about to sign with Distant View Group. He interrupted me. About to sign means not signed yet. You and I both know from experience that until a contract is signed, we can't count on it. Audrey, bottom line, you are not the boss. You don't know the pressure I face in this position. David looked at me steadily, his eyes conveying deep fatigue. But I only felt sadness for the man standing before me, who was still trying to deceive me now. David, if I didn't know your pressure, would I have fought so hard for this company? When the company was struggling, who drank with a client until their stomach bled just to secure a large deal? Now, who worked until 2 a.m. every night for a month to land the Distant View Group contract? It was me, Mr. Hayes. My voice choked, unable to continue. David impatiently cut in. Audrey, you are hardworking, but I never treated you unfairly, either. Look around this city. Who else has been as lucky as you? You graduated from an unknown school. Yet in just 6 years, you bought a car and a house in this city. I gave you everything an employer could give. You became sales director 3 months after joining. By the 4th year, you were earning over $1 million a year. Were you fighting for me? You were fighting for yourself. I looked at David in disbelief. I never imagined those words would come out of his mouth. The person before me was a stranger. It was as if the David who used to call the company our child had had his soul replaced. I remembered the first time I met David 6 years ago. I had failed my graduate school entrance exam and wanted to find any job. So I joined David's small advertising company. He hired me, telling me that even though the company was small now, I would be a founding member later. Initially, I scoffed at this boss who, despite his good looks, gave off the vibe of a cult leader. I planned to coast along and retake the exam next year. Until one time, I had a 100.4 fever but went to work diligently because I had a client meeting the next day. I reached the client's office building, but David found out about my fever. He insisted on skipping the client meeting and taking me to the hospital. I told him I was fine. It was just 100.4. I even joked I was a steel warrior who wouldn't abandon her post. But he was serious, saying people needed rest when they were sick. If you don't rest, you can't work well. That day, he accompanied me to register at the hospital, picked up my medicine, drove me home, and cooked me a pot of 8 treasure porridge, urging me to eat on time. Drinking the porridge, I thought, this is such a good boss. I dedicate my life to him. Since childhood, David was the first person who treated my illness with such seriousness. I was willing to go through fire for him. 4 months into the job, I officially gave up on my graduate studies and dedicated myself entirely to David's company. I signed the company's first $1 million contract. At the time, I hounded the client contact for nearly 2 months. The contact, exasperated, finally agreed to meet. David and I were fully prepared. But the moment we met, the client pointed to 3 large glasses of hard liquor on the table and said, "Let me see your sincerity." David was about to explode. I grabbed his hand, tilted my head back, and downed all 3 glasses. Then I collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. When I woke up, David was watching over me, his eyes red. "Audrey, it wasn't worth it, not for me." At that time, the company hadn't closed a deal in 3 months. Without one, we couldn't even pay next month's salaries. David knew I was fighting for him, but to save his face, I joked, "Who says it's for you? If this deal closes, I'm getting every penny of my commission." David smiled, looking at me gently. "Fine. It's all yours." Later, the client visited me in the hospital and signed the contract on the spot. She smiled and said, "The young lady has nerve. Since you're willing to risk your life for the contract, I trust you'll do good work." That $1 million contract helped the company through its toughest period. When I was discharged, David bought me 99 roses and confessed his feelings. He said he was sure I was the life partner he was looking for and asked me to be his girlfriend. When I agreed, he hugged me and spun me around, solemnly promising, "Audrey, I swear, I will never betray you in this life." That night, he also said that from then on, the company was our child. Recalling all this, my heart was shaking. I didn't know which was the real man, the one with the pure heart from before, or the cynical merchant standing here now, full of excuses. David stopped looking at me. He turned away, gazing out into the darkness outside the window. "Audrey, it's because I anticipated this reaction that I kept it from you. There are things I've wanted to say for a long time. People's goals change at different stages of life. We were aligned once, and shared a memorable journey. But now that our goals diverge, I think separation is the best outcome for us." I stared at David in shock, surprised that he could articulate such a betrayal so eloquently. The cheesy youth who once sounded like a cult leader had indeed matured. I asked with a cold laugh, "It seems Mr. Hayes has indeed found a better connection. Tell me, do you truly love Jasmine? Or do you love her background?" David paused, then said, "Girls from wealthy families are different from girls from ordinary backgrounds like yours. They are less calculating. A lot of the time we spent together, I felt wary. For example, we've been together for so long, yet you always demanded every penny of your commission due from the company. Sometimes, your calculating ways frighten me." I laughed until tears streamed down my face. So this was what David thought of me all along. while I was fighting his battles. He was worried about and guarded against me. David, thank you for letting me see your true colors. Just then, someone pushed the door open and walked in. It was the fiery Rose, Jasmine Sue. She looped her arm through David's and winked affectionately. David, why is this conversation taking so long? Could it be that Miss Tang is clinging to you and refusing to let go? Without waiting for David to answer, she raised an eyebrow at me. Or is Miss Tang asking for too much? Miss Tang, you shouldn't be so greedy. A small-town girl like you has already bought a car and a house in the city. You've profited so much from David over the years. We're all adults. Let's keep this civilized. Just resign before I have to fire you. Ignoring her ceaseless chatter, I raised my hand and delivered a loud slap across David's face. Caught completely off guard, he didn't dodge. 5 red finger marks instantly bloomed on his cheek. He glared at me angrily. Are you crazy? I said. That slap is for the feelings I wasted on you. As for the firing, I look forward to seeing your method. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to tell you both. You truly deserve each other. You're a pair of trash. With that, I turned and walked out without looking back. The next day, I went to the office and found Jasmine occupying my office. My personal belongings were packed into 2 small cardboard boxes next to the desk. Jasmine looked at me smugly. The computer belongs to the company. Your personal items are here. Count them carefully. Don't claim the company stole anything from you. My former subordinates watched her, looking indignant. I gave them a reassuring nod, then calmly sat opposite Jasmine. Let's discuss compensation directly. I had worked at the company for 6 years, and my base annual salary as VP was $600,000. The minimum legal severance should be 7 months' salary, or $350,000. However, the resignation agreement Jasmine presented offered only 1 month's salary. She crossed her arms, looking superior. I stand by what I said. Don't be greedy. Sign this and leave quietly. If you disagree, you can take it to arbitration. But I imagine you wouldn't want your new employer to hear unsavory things during a background check, would you? For example, that you, the vice president, only got your position by sleeping with the boss. No company likes women who get ahead through the casting couch. I smiled. Jasmine was truly ruthless. She knew exactly how to manipulate ordinary working women. Too bad I wasn't a novice. Before coming to the office, I had just met with my biggest client, MS Chen, the CEO of Oriental Group. MS Chen was the client for my first $1 million contract, and we'd maintained a friendly relationship for 5 years. 5 years ago, Oriental Group, relying on the ad team I led, secured the top spot in beverage consumables. Since then, our cooperation had been excellent. Oriental Group signed contracts worth around $20 million annually with David's company. A year ago, she had invited me to join Oriental Group, offering to establish a specialized advertising subsidiary for me. This would both save Oriental Group costs and allow me to realize greater personal value. At the time, I politely declined, committed to my NASDAQ dream with David. Last night, I had a frank conversation with MS Chen, asking if her offer from a year ago still stood. MS Chen laughed, saying I, Audrey Tang, could become the CEO of Oriental Group's fully owned subsidiary anytime I wished. Just wait until you've sorted out your departure from David's company. I slapped the severance agreement onto the table in front of Jasmine. Simultaneously, I pulled out my phone and shook it at her. As VP of HR, didn't any HR manager teach you to confiscate an employee's phone before discussing termination? Guess which one of us will face more negative consequences if this recording is made public? Jasmine snapped. You set me up. I shook my head. No. You're just stupid and evil. 7 months compensation. Not a cent less. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you to the headlines. Jasmine's face turned green with fury. I watched her calmly. With your professional abilities, I truly worry about the company's future. Thank you for firing me in advance. MS Sue, I'll see you around. As I walked out, I heard the sound of things being smashed inside the office. Jasmine must have been enraged. I ran hidden into David, who looked at me with disapproval. Audrey, I thought you were a smart person. Why burn bridges over such a small amount of money? Angering Jasmine brings you no benefit. With her background, she can ensure you never find another job in this industry. You still have a mortgage to pay. I don't need to explain the consequences, do I? Though I had given up on David, his statement still shocked me. His moral floor was so low he barely qualified as human. I smiled. Too bad I'm not like you. I have no interest in being a dog. Go on and be a good dog for your princess. I pulled off the company badge I had worn for 6 years and tossed it casually into the trash can. I walked past him without a second glance. David, goodbye. If things go according to plan, the next time we meet, I will be the representative for his company's biggest client, Oriental Group. I truly looked forward to that. When I left Spring Breeze, many former colleagues and subordinates came out to see me off. I counted 21 people in total. Nearly all of them looked devastated. The young employees I had personally mentored looked on the verge of tears. It had, after all, only been less than 24 hours between the annual meeting and my departure. 2 new sales employees, Chloe and Sandy, declared on the spot that they were leaving with me. President Tang, I'm not staying at this disgusting company. Well, go wherever you go. The accountant, Miss Dong, held my hand, saying she would miss me dearly. I appreciated the loyalty of these former comrades, who dared to send me off right under David and Jasmine's noses, but I urged them not to act rashly. At the same time, I invited them to a casual dinner at the city's most popular restaurant that evening. 7 p.m. Dinner's on me. Everyone come. We can still be good friends even if we're not colleagues. Please come. Everyone present nodded vigorously, but I knew that when evening came, probably only half of them would attend. Their outpouring of support was due to witnessing my diligent work ethic being repaid with cruel dismissal in such a short time. Who was to say my fate wouldn't be theirs tomorrow? Sympathy and despair fueled their actions. When they returned to their desks, rationality would likely kick in. Thoughts of mortgages and car payments could lead them to make different choices. Still, even half attending the dinner would be enough. Joining Oriental Group meant I needed a reliable team. This dinner would serve as a small test to select my future partners. 7 p.m. South Hill Restaurant. Just as I predicted, 11 of the 21 people arrived exactly on time. Of the 10 who didn't come, 9 sent me private messages, mentioning difficulties supporting their families, fearing to resign in the current climate, but wishing me great success. Only one person, Philip, neither showed up nor sent a message. Chloe and Sandy were highly displeased, calling Philip an ungrateful traitor. I smiled, pouring them drinks, and simply said everyone had their own path. I finished my glass, stating we wouldn't leave until we were drunk. Philip's absence genuinely surprised me. 3 years ago, I hired him and mentored him from a complete novice to the head of the sales team. 2 years ago, when his mother had a car accident and he couldn't afford the surgery because he had just bought a house, I lent him $10,000 without even asking for an IOU. A year ago, I gave his newborn baby a $3,000 cash gift. By all accounts, he shouldn't have failed to show up. Perhaps worried I was sad. After the first round, these 11 lively souls immediately ordered 2 bottles of whiskey. Without any coaxing, the dinner quickly escalated into a chorus of cheers. Just then, the private room door opened. David walked in, holding Jasmine's hand. Behind them was Philip, the one person who hadn't come to my dinner. Seeing me look at him, Philip first lowered his eyes. Then, as if remembering something, he lifted his head defiantly. Clearly, he had made his choice. I smiled, relieved. His ingratitude saved me any internal conflict. The arrival of the 3 caused the room's atmosphere to freeze. Chloe, indignant, jumped up and pointed at Philip. Philip, you really are heartless. Have you forgotten how good Sister Audrey was to you? Philip laughed dismissively. You're mistaken. I'm an employee of Spring Breeze. The company is always good to me. Not Audrey Tang. I suggest you all recognize the reality. You're getting paid by Mr. Hayes. Chloe was furious, rolling up her sleeves. You're talking nonsense. Philip jumped back instinctively. Chloe, what are you doing? I warn you, if you hit me, you'll be legally responsible. I pulled Chloe back, telling her to calm down. Jasmine was already smiling. I heard President Tang liked to form cliques in the company. Today is an eye-opener. You really used the company's money to breed a bunch of loyal dogs. Then her face hardened. The company doesn't tolerate ingrates. Every single person here today will be prioritized for optimization. Most people at the table were angered by her disrespect. but a few looked worried. These were the people with families to support. Jasmine's threat clearly resonated with them. David smiled with satisfaction. Audrey has been here a long time, and many people here were recruited by her. So I understand your bond. But you all need to be clear. Your livelihood comes from the company, not from Audrey Tang. The current climate is tough, and I don't want to be utterly ruthless. I've opened another table next door. If anyone wishes to join me, they're welcome. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I stood up, smiling. I originally planned to announce this later, but since Mr. Hayes and Vice President Sue brought it up, I won't hold back. I'm also opening a company, focused on competing directly with Mr. Hayes. Conveniently, my company needs staff. Anyone who follows me will receive a 5 salary increase. The tension in the room immediately eased. Chloe shouted, "Wow, Sister Audrey, why didn't you tell us such exciting news earlier?" Sandy laughed heartily. I knew Sister Audrey had a plan. Of course. We're following you. Jasmine sneered. Haha, you're opening a company. That's the joke of the year. Do you know how to handle the social maneuvering? Do you know how much it costs to run a company? Good heavens. A person of your background dares to start a business. You're fearless. David frowned at me. Audrey, I know being fired embarrassed you, but I urge you to be rational. Jasmine is right. Do you think starting a company is a game? And it's one thing for you to take a risk, but you're dragging these people with you. Don't you know you're harming them? This is irresponsible of you. Dragging these dozen people onto your sinking ship just to spite me. They're drinking happily with you tonight, but they'll be jobless tomorrow. Don't talk about working for your new company. Even if your company opens without experience, it will close in a few months. You might claim you can afford the loss. You did earn a lot of money working under me, but what about these ordinary people who follow you? He looked at me with an air of profound disappointment, shaking his head. I've said enough. I hope you aren't so selfish. Give these people a lifeline. A person should know their limitations. Jasmine chimed in. Oh, you're asking too much of Vice President Tang. Self-awareness is what she lacks most. She was under your protection before, mistaking your ability and the company's influence for her own talent. Good advice won't save a doomed person. You've said your piece. If she insists on self-destruction, it's her destiny. As they say, money not earned through skill will be lost through lack of skill. She looked at me triumphantly, as if she could already see my future bankruptcy. To top it off, she pouted, clutching David's arm. Don't tell me you feel sorry for her. David shrugged, looking at her dotingly. Where did that come from? I just pity her. I was so disgusted by their blatant display of affection that I felt physically ill. Are you done rambling? You crazy couple. Someone on my side snorted with laughter. David's face darkened. Audrey, you never learn until you hit rock bottom. I shrugged. You might be wrong, Mr. Hayes. You seem to forget that if I hadn't signed the Oriental Group contract back then, the company would have been finished. I could save your broken company then. And I can certainly run my own now. David roared. You better not come crying back to me in the future. With that, he grabbed Jasmine's hand and stormed out. The moment they left, Chloe popped a bottle of red wine. Let the music play and the dancing continue. Drink up, everyone. I smiled, asking everyone, you're not leaving. Aren't you afraid of being ruined by following me? As Mr. Hayes claimed. Sandy scooped up a piece of abalone. Screw that. We're already here. It's too late to leave now. We might as well follow you all the way. Besides, listen to the nonsense David was spouting. The company is your livelihood. Pooh. We only come here to work. We didn't sign up to worship a master. Another person laughed. Exactly. With our skills, we can earn a living anywhere. Why endure that abuse from those crazy people? Firing us. Great. That means N1 severance pay. I'll take the compensation and follow Sister Audrey to get rich. Forget those jerks. Fill up the glasses. Follow Sister Audrey to wealth. Everyone raised their glasses enthusiastically, but their words brought tears to my eyes. A phrase came to mind. There are no wasted journeys in life. Every path counts. Over the years at Spring Breeze, despite encountering a scumbag like David, I had made these true friends. These people I treated sincerely did not betray my kindness. Amidst their calls for future wealth, I announced the good news. Oriental Group was backing me. As they say, a big tree provides good shade. From now on, we also have a tree to lean on. Everyone cheered, chastising me for keeping this massive news a secret until the last minute. I laughed too. If their decision to follow me before was purely out of friendship and loyalty, then now, they were truly on board and willing to sail with this ship toward a distant horizon. I suddenly felt excited about the future. After that day, I threw myself into the busy preparations for the new company. David claiming I didn't know how to run a business was utterly forgetful. Aside from the initial registration documents, I had experienced everything related to starting a company at Spring Breeze, including organizational structure, financial budgeting, and personnel management. And now, with Oriental Group as my major backer, establishing the new company was incredibly smooth. While I was busy with preparations, David and Jasmine weren't idle either. Jasmine relentlessly tormented the people who attended my dinner, hoping they would resign voluntarily. But the team had taken my advice, unanimously deciding to stay at Spring Breeze to annoy David and Jasmine until my new company finalized its paperwork. They even created a group chat and added me naming their operation the Prosperity Plan, a humorous take on achieving wealth through severance. The goal: get fired, receive N1 compensation, and thus financial prosperity. They even staged a performance at the office to deceive Jasmine. When she mocked them for not joining my new startup, they pretended to be dejected, claiming I hadn't actually invited them. This created the false impression that they were trapped at Spring Breeze, encouraging Jasmine to be even more outrageous. Jasmine's tactics for sabotage were textbook verbal abuse, moral blackmail, demotion, job transfers, all classic moves. Everything was reported to me in real time in the group chat, but no matter her ridiculous methods, no one resigned. This emboldened Jasmine's arrogance. A week later, she spoke to the attendees of my dinner individually. The main message was that since they hadn't resigned and were still collecting Spring Breeze salaries, she trusted them and expected them to cooperate with future work, rather than cursing the company and the boss while on the payroll. To appease her, everyone agreed. For the following week, Jasmine was exceedingly friendly. Then, citing investor requirements, she announced a full company recompetition system. This meant all employees had to sign a competition agreement, which importantly stated, all previous salaries and positions were automatically void, and everyone must reapply. Jasmine thought this move was brilliant, but my team cursed her relentlessly in the group chat. Sue said she's giving everyone a fair chance. Doesn't matter if you're old or new. The capable get raises. Haha, isn't that just saying she'll give raises to whoever she likes? Capable get raises. Why not just say Philip the lapdog gets the raise? Too bad Sue doesn't understand the law. Indeed, whether out of ignorance or arrogance based on her background, Jasmine's competition agreement disregarded labor law completely. Now that Jasmine unilaterally altered the original employment contracts, the team collectively filed for labor arbitration. Typically, employers use such underhanded tactics because they assume employees are weak and dependent on the company. This usually targets lower-level workers who lack the education or awareness to seek legal redress. Jasmine's error stemmed from the team's convincing act. Since no one had resigned despite her abuse, she mistakenly thought they were desperate and thus became recklessly arrogant, making this colossal blunder. Soon, Spring Breeze was called in by the authorities. Due to the high number of arbitration requests, the Labor Inspection Brigade singled out Spring Breeze as a negative example and even issued a public notice, emphasizing that workers' rights and dignity must be protected. At the same time, the employees posted their grievances online, condemning the injustice they faced at Spring Breeze. They didn't forget to tag Spring Breeze's investor, questioning whether concealed layoffs were part of the acquisition deal and if the investor was too broke to afford compensation. This move damaged Spring Breeze's reputation severely, and even caused the investor's stock to drop. The immediate result was that every member of the team received their full severance package upon leaving Spring Breeze. The Prosperity Plan was a resounding success. They took their N1 from Spring Breeze and walked straight into my new company. I wondered if David and Jasmine were enraged enough to cough up blood. After a month of hectic preparations, my new company was almost ready. When Ms. Chen asked me to choose an auspicious day for the launch, I told her everything was prepared, except for one person. In the past at Spring Breeze, I could focus entirely on external affairs because I had a crucial person supporting the internal operations. I only had a working relationship with this person, no private friendship. In fact, she didn't even come to see me off when I left Spring Breeze after 5 years of working side by side. She was Jennifer, Spring Breeze's content director. The first major contract with Oriental Group was secured thanks to her planning. If I could poach her, I knew the new company would take off immediately. Perhaps fate was on my side. Just as I was about to look for Jennifer, she called me, suppressing my excitement. I immediately arranged a meeting. 5 minutes into the meeting, I confirmed in my mind that my new company was ready for liftoff. Jennifer told me that the day I resigned, Jasmine specifically invited her to dinner. I almost burst out laughing. Jasmine clearly didn't understand Jennifer. Jennifer was a workaholic, but she never socialized with colleagues after hours. For 5 years at Spring Breeze, she always had an excuse to skip the annual meeting. David used to complain about Jennifer being antisocial, but I always told him that work was work, and not eating with colleagues after hours was perfectly normal. Sure enough, Jennifer flat out rejected Jasmine's invitation, making no attempt to soften the refusal, which deeply humiliated Jasmine. Consequently, simply for refusing dinner, Jasmine decided Jennifer was aligned with me and constantly targeted her afterward. That was fine, but the main issue is that she is completely unprofessional. She fired me simply because I called her unprofessional, Jennifer said. Hearing the word unprofessional, I couldn't help but chuckle. Unprofessional was practically Jennifer's catchphrase. When we worked together, she often said I was unprofessional, but she knew I was just focusing on client needs. And she, in turn, maximized the artistic merit of her content while meeting those needs. Whenever she called me unprofessional, I would laugh and praise her. You're professional. The most professional. I couldn't believe Jasmine was so sensitive she couldn't handle those 3 words, resorting to firing Jennifer with a high severance payout. I had to admire her audacity. Looking at the indignant Jennifer, I asked the most crucial question. You came to me, so I assume you know I'm starting a company. I definitely need people. Let's talk salary directly. What are you asking for? Jennifer pondered for 3 seconds, then stated, a minimum 20 raise. Otherwise, they'll look elsewhere. A shrewd negotiator. She didn't know I was prepared to offer a 50 raise to secure her. I struggled to suppress the upward curve of my mouth and extended my hand to Jennifer. It's a deal. I could always give my dear Jennifer a bigger raise once the new company was fully operational. On the opening day of the new company, David and Jasmine actually came to Oriental Group to visit their old client, because I had instructed Chloe and the others. David and Jasmine had no idea my new company was a subsidiary of Oriental Group. At MS Chen's summons, I, as the representative of Oriental Group, walked into the massive conference room with the core team I brought over from Spring Breeze to face David and Jasmine. Seeing Jennifer, Chloe, and the others, David and Jasmine looked livid. Jasmine stupidly asked if I brought so many people to steal her clients. I smoothed my flowing hair and explained. Oriental Group has established a new, wholly owned advertising subsidiary, managed by me and my team. So, after Spring Breeze completes its final month of service, the contract will not be renewed. The boss hired me to start this new company to save costs and increase profit. After all, I can simply bring all of Spring Breeze's former clients over to Oriental Group. Everything Spring Breeze can do, Oriental Group can do. And what Spring Breeze couldn't do, I can achieve with the backing of Oriental Group. Isn't that right, Mr. Hayes and Vice President Sue? The atmosphere was tense. Chloe broke the silence with a laugh, and everyone else chuckled nervously. David was so angry his nose was practically crooked. Audrey, you are capitalizing on misfortune. Jasmine echoed him. Don't be smug. Spring Breeze will thrive even without the Oriental Group contract. We're about to sign a contract with Distant View Group. You brought the company such a huge order. Thank you. I smiled. Is that so? I hope such a large contract doesn't choke you. My comment seemed to offend Jasmine again. David was furious, practically shouting to the whole of Oriental Group. Audrey, when your new employer finds out what kind of person you are, they'll send you back. Someone without real hard power like you won't go far. Watching David's frantic anger, I suddenly realized that doing evil makes a person ugly. Although I had rebuked her, Jasmine hadn't been lying about one thing. She had indeed established contact with Distant View Group, and they were finalizing contract details. Close to signing, when I repeatedly contacted the Distant View representative, he finally grew impatient. Distant View Group values Spring Breeze's strength, not yours. Audrey Tang, since you've left Spring Breeze, why do you keep calling me? Where do you get your nerve? I hung up, smiling mysteriously. Through my sources, I learned that Jasmine and David had flown to Sea City to sign the contract with Distant View. I brought Jennifer with me to Sea City. As expected, we ran into them at the airport, boarding the same flight. Jasmine mocked me, telling me to stop wasting my time. We are determined to get the Distant View Group contract. I put on my headphones and asked Jennifer, "Do you hear dogs barking? Isn't it noisy?" Jennifer looked exasperated, but put on her own headphones to comply. Jasmine's face turned deathly pale. On the plane, however, Jennifer kept bugging me, asking how confident I was. I closed my eyes to rest, only telling her that the first rule of success was patience. That comment annoyed Jennifer so much she put on an eye mask and didn't speak to me for the entire tower flight. That evening, we landed and went straight to a luxury hotel. I told Jennifer to get a good night's sleep and wait for my news tomorrow. Sending her into her room, I went into the room next door and tossed and turned all night. The next morning, my phone rang. It was the same Distant View Group representative. His tone was completely different, apologizing profusely for his rudeness the previous day. He then immediately urged me to come to the company as soon as possible. I feigned surprise. "Oh, didn't you say your company only values Spring Breeze's strength? What good am I?" Audrey Tang. The representative sounded like he was about to cry. "Miss Tang, please. You must come to the company today. Mr. Mu, our CEO, specifically requested to sign the contract only with you. And he said the auspicious time is limited. If you don't arrive before the deadline, he will hold me responsible." I smiled sweetly as I hung up. "Since you put it that way, I suppose I must oblige. I just happened to be in Sea City for a break, staying at the Hyatt Hotel. Come pick me up." I hung up and knocked on Jennifer's door. Jennifer was stunned, asking how I possibly managed to convince the CEO overnight. She'd been too stressed to sleep well. I told her the mystery was only interesting if kept until the end. She elbowed me lightly. When the representative brought us to the Distant View Group headquarters, we passed David and Jasmine, who were being ushered out of the building. Both looked defeated, clearly in a foul mood. I flashed a wide, bright smile, greeting them warmly. "Oh my, didn't you say you were determined to get the Distant View Group contract?" Already turning back defeated, Jasmine shot me a hateful, venomous glare. "Who knows what sordid method you used to seduce old Mr. Mu? I have to say, you have truly disgusting taste. Sleeping with old men." I raised my voice on purpose. "What did you say? You accused me of seducing Mr. Mu. Oh dear. Mr. Mu, come listen. Someone is slandering me. Have the legal department prosecute her immediately." Jasmine was about to argue, but the old man she accused me of seducing strode up from behind her. The elderly CEO, tall and imposing, looked at her with disgust. "Why are you two still here? What bad luck?" He then ordered the security guards to physically remove them. Memorize their faces. They are never allowed on group property again, lest they ruin the feng shui. Ignoring David and Jasmine's livid faces, the CEO, Mr. Mu, enthusiastically grasped my hand. "Little Tang, you finally made it." I explained to him. "I apologize. I ran into some personal issues after returning, and I've switched to a different company. The good news is, my content director is still the same one." I introduced Jennifer to Mr. Mu. Mr. Mu sized up Jennifer and nodded approvingly. Very good. A woman of good fortune." Jennifer's eyes twitched. Mr. Mu then waved his hand and asked me, "Do you have the contract? Hurry and sign it. We can't miss the auspicious time." Through the revolving glass door, I could clearly see the jealousy and resentment on the faces of David and Jasmine. I held up the contract, waving it at them, and followed Mr. Mu, without looking back, to the 24th floor CEO's office. I had to admit, the feeling of leaving an opponent far behind was wonderful. David would probably never know why I beat him. Over the years, he sat securely in the boss chair, letting me conquer new territory for him. He thought that maintaining client relationships only required a good proposal. But many top companies offer equally excellent proposals. What truly influences a client's decision is often personal preference. And people are the most complex beings in the world. For example, old Mr. Mu was a typical Kaeshan native, highly superstitious. In the 2 weeks I was in C-City, besides perfecting the proposal, I did one more important thing. Old Mr. Mu, despite being a major CEO, loved buying lottery tickets. He used his lottery winnings to judge his fortune for the day. I bribed the owner of his regular lottery shop, ensuring that I only contacted him to set up meetings when he had won a prize. Over time, old Mr. Mu came to see me as a good luck charm. Then, I bribed his trusted master to certify that our birth charts were compatible. Collaborating with me, the master assured him, would guarantee his new product's success. That's why I was certain he would only sign the contract with me personally. With this contract signed, my subsidiary company had already met its profit goal for the first year. In contrast to my soaring success, Spring Breeze's performance plummeted. The investor who acquired Spring Breeze had signed a non-performance clause with David, stipulating that if he failed to meet the expected performance targets, he would have to pay a financial compensation. The rumored compensation was nearly $10 million. When Chloe shared this news with gleeful satisfaction, I was genuinely surprised. Spring Breeze had always been profitable. If David hadn't sold the company, his personal annual income would have been $3 to $4 million. I couldn't understand why he would sign such a risky agreement just to sell the company. Jennifer offered her perspective. It's simple greed. If he hadn't sold the company and worked steadily, he would only ever be an advertising company boss. But by selling and successfully hitting the targets, his net worth would multiply several times, making him an instant success in society. Jennifer finally sighed and asked me, "You knew him so well. Didn't you realize he had an extreme craving for success? The success I'm talking about is the kind that makes him feel like he's superior to others. His choice of Jasmine and his decision to sign that non-performance clause all stem from the same reason. The success people like us pursue could never satisfy him. Ultimately, you two are not the same kind of person." I froze. I remembered him taking me to the hospital, his anxious face, and his serious demeanor while cooking porridge. I remembered him staying up all night by my bedside when I was sick from drinking. All those memories culminated in the image of David lumped, drunken, and tearful on the night Jasmine mocked him. He had said, "I must climb to the top." Perhaps this was his way of climbing. But none of this concerned me anymore. I had loved David, but my love was built on the foundation that he loved me too. The moment he chose Jasmine, he became yesterday's garbage to me. I didn't regret the days I loved him, nor did I wallow in self-pity over being betrayed by a scumbag. I knew that my value as Audrey Tang would never change because of a man's love. Whether he loved me or not, I was still Audrey Tang. All the accomplishments in my life were created by me, and my future would be built by my own hands. I patted Jennifer's shoulder and signaled her, "Come on, time to meet a client." Unexpectedly, I ran into David again soon after, at a business banquet. Mr. Alan Su, a formidable figure who rarely appeared in public, was also present that day. He was the man rumored to be Jasmine's mysterious father. The moment he arrived, he was immediately surrounded by admirers. David was among them. Strangely, Jasmine wasn't with him. What happened next stunned everyone present. It was a masterclass in public humiliation. David enthusiastically introduced himself as Jasmine's boyfriend. "Jasmine probably hasn't mentioned me to you. She always told me to see you as my role model, saying she wouldn't introduce me until I achieved something substantial. But I thought, the ugly daughter-in-law must eventually meet her in-laws. Since I have the opportunity to meet you today, I'll introduce myself. Though my achievements are tiny, incomparable to yours, please rest assured, I will work hard." His endless speech was interrupted by Mr. Zu's frowning question. "You are Jasmine's boyfriend?" David nodded. Mr. Su smiled. "Then you can tell her for me. We, the Su family, have tolerated her using our name for so many years out of respect for her grandmother's long service to us. Now that her grandmother is gone, she has no connection to the Su family. If she pretends to be my daughter again, I will take legal action." The entire banquet hall fell silent. David's face instantly went white. He refused to give up. Are you saying Jasmine is truly not your daughter, Mr.? Sue looked at him with pity. She is the granddaughter of my family's housekeeper. I understand that young people want success. But if you want to take shortcuts and climb the social ladder, you must assess if you have the luck for it. After saying that, Mr. Sue ignored David and continued socializing. David stood rooted to the spot for a long while, looking utterly lost, before suddenly remembering something and rushing out of the hall. The social scene exploded with gossip. Everyone had something to say. The consensus was that Jasmine was running a scam, and David had been thoroughly duped. The people who had been envious of David's connection were now the most smug. Many busybodies gathered around me, congratulating me on my revenge. I chuckled, accepting their celebratory drinks. I knew their current indignation held little sincerity, but who cares? A villain meeting their end was, ultimately, a joyous occasion. This called for a toast. Soon after, I heard that both Jasmine and David had been fired by their investor. David had failed the performance clause and was forced to pay significant compensation. The rumor was that he even had to sell his house. Honestly, this surprised me. I knew David had earned a decent amount over the years. It shouldn't have been enough to force him to sell his house. But I quickly learned the reason. The precise reason David sold his house was told to me by Philip. He came to my office, but security wouldn't let him in. So he stopped my car on the street. He said that the investor had fired Jasmine and David and appointed a new leader for Spring Breeze, leading to another personnel purge. Naturally, Philip, as David's loyalist, was also let go. Philip clung to my car window, crying uncontrollably. The tall man was practically begging me on his knees. He said he had elderly parents and a small child, plus a monthly $1,500 mortgage. He had only chosen David and Jasmine out of desperation. But who knew David was just a pretty face, useless when it counted. He fell for Jasmine's trickery. He didn't manage the company properly and even used money to invest in some cosmetic equipment, hoping for a quick fortune. Not only did the company fail the performance clause, but the investment also crashed and burned. Jasmine, knowing she fleeced David, went into hiding. Do you know, David even went to find Mr. Alan Sue. Jasmine always claimed Mr. Sue was her father. David went to him, hoping for help to cover his debts. That's when he learned Jasmine wasn't Mr. Z's daughter at all, but the housekeeper's granddaughter. Now David is completely broke and has to sell his house to pay the investor. It's karma. If I understood correctly, Philip was trying to gain my trust by bad-mouthing David. Sister Audrey, I was blind before. I wronged you. Please, on account of our past, give me a chance. Otherwise, I really will jump off a building. I looked at the fawning sycophant before me. Even though he was fired from Spring Breeze, I knew he had other options. He came to beg me because he still thought I was a fool. I despised people who treated me like a fool. Ignoring him, I reversed the car, stepped on the gas, and sped away, barely missing his shoulder. But the stressful day was far from over. At 10 p.m., I arrived home and saw David. He looked utterly haggard, crouched in a corner, completely devoid of his former confidence. He was clearly waiting for me. Seeing me, he immediately stood up, his face breaking into a strained, indiscernible expression, neither a cry nor a laugh. He faltered, asking if I was happy that he had received his comeuppance. I told him honestly that yes, I was quite happy. David lowered his head, silent for a long while. I intended to ignore him, opening my door to enter, but he stopped the door just as I was closing it. Separated by the crack, I saw his tears hitting the ground. For some reason, his posture reminded me of the David from years ago, the one who broke down on the night Jasmine mocked him outside the client's office. But I was no longer the Audrey of that time. I slid the deadbolt, preparing to shut the door completely. David held the door firmly, as if that narrow gap was his last chance. I refused to open it, holding firm against him. Just then, David suddenly shouted, "Audrey, open the door. Without me, would you be where you are today?" I sensed David's madness and desperately pushed against the door, trying to close it. But he pushed back just as fiercely. "You stole all my clients, driving me to ruin. Now you want to dump me? No way." My strength was no match for his. The gap widened. David seemed to have lost his mind. "Jasmine is a bitch, and you're no better. You're all liars. You're all bitches. Open the door. You dirty bitch. Believe me. I'll come in and kill you. One of David's hands slipped through the gap, reaching for the deadbolt. I noticed a fresh bloodstain on his sleeve. Fear crawled over me. While pushing the door, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Hearing me call the police, David pushed the door even more violently, managing to unlock the deadbolt. Just as my strength was about to give out, David suddenly seemed to deflate. I slammed the door shut. 3 seconds later, I heard Jennifer's voice outside. Open the door. It's me. I opened the door to find Jennifer holding a taser, and David slumped on the ground like a rag doll. The police arrived quickly and took all of us to the precinct. It was only at the police station that I learned that before coming to find me, David had killed Jasmine. Jasmine had defrauded David of all his money to maintain her persona as Mr. Sus' rich daughter. She had taken out many high-interest loans, thinking she could trap wealthy, naive second-generation heirs. But the heirs were all too smart, merely playing games with her. After 4 or 5 wasted years, Jasmine met the rising David Hayes. This time, she targeted the self-made David. They drove me out and started running the company together, only to realize neither of them was competent in management. To cover her loan debts, Jasmine convinced David that an investment in cosmetic equipment was a sure thing, thus getting hold of the money he made from selling the company. The company's performance worsened, and the cosmetic investment was a total bust. To avoid repayment, Jasmine went into hiding. That was when David sought out Mr. Sue, only to discover Jasmine was a fake. Utterly ruined overnight, David finally found Jasmine. They hurled accusations at each other. David called Jasmine a liar. Jasmine retorted that David was still the peasant he was in college, and that the idea of being with her was delusional. That insult sent David over the edge, and in a fit of rage, he killed her. His murder was reported by the police online. I hadn't seen the news because I was focused on work. David, blinded by emotion, hadn't checked his phone either. Only Jennifer, seeing the news, anticipated David might come looking for me. She brought a taser and came to my apartment, where she found him attempting to break in. Leaving the police station, it was 3 a.m. Jennifer said the evidence against David for murdering Jasmine was conclusive, and his attempted break-in at my place, with witnesses and evidence, meant he would certainly face the death penalty, having escaped certain danger. I looked up at the scattering of stars and leaned into Jennifer, tears finally falling. I told Jennifer, Thank you for worrying about me, and thank you for risking yourself to save me." Jennifer gently pushed me away. She adjusted her glasses, utterly deadpan. "President Tang, I am your employee. I wasn't worried about you. I was worried about my money. If anything happened to you, where would I find another job with such a high salary?" "Oh, right. Last month, due to the increased workload, Jennifer's salary had already doubled from what she earned before." I hugged her again. "No more raises this year. This is the limit." Her spine instantly went rigid, then softened inch by inch. "Fine. I'll count it as good karma. But next year, the raise is non-negotiable." My eyes teared up again as I laughed. "Deal." Next year, under the night sky, I saw several figures running toward me, waving, wiping my tears. I recognized them as Chloe, Sandy, and the rest of the team. Despite the absurd life-and-death ordeal I had just survived, seeing these people rushing to me, I thought, God has been kind to me. Audrey Tang, sisters and brothers, let's thrive together in the future.